and gentlemen, hello, and welcome to another edition of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. I am Mr. Warren Hayes in the flesh, in all his gooey goodness, right here. For you right here, where we talk about wrestling. We talk about, in this case, WWE SmackDown Live. We're going to review it today. But as of last night's SmackDown Live, the September 4th, 2018 edition, folks. I'm so glad you're here. Like, I really, really appreciate you taking the time to tune in, to press play on this video. You don't know how much that means to me. It really does mean a lot. And you know what? I hope it means as much to you as it does to me. I hope so. And that's entirely on me. This is entirely up to me. I'm going to pull up my monitoring a bit. There we go. Now I sound nice and clear. Now I sound good. I sound muy bueno. Just before we start talking about SmackDown Live, let us talk about other things I do just before we move on. You know, this is an entire channel, right? I don't know if you stumbled across this video all by itself, but I maintain a YouTube channel, like a lot of people do. It's nothing special. I'm not pretending to be, someone very, out of the ordinary doing this. I know that we're a dime a dozen, but I'm going to tell you one thing. No one looks quite as awkward doing this as I do. That's my brand. I have a YouTube channel, tinyurl.com/Mr. Warren Hayes. It's right there on the Warren board. Yes, it's a Warren board. It's not a whiteboard. Branding is important. That's what my mother always used to say. Always go check out tinyurl.com/Mr. Warren Hayes. Why don't you subscribe while you're there? Just, hit the thing. And then you're like, ooh, I'll get Mr. Warren Hayes content as soon as it pops up live onto the YouTubes. And this is actually a representation of YouTube servers actually processing videos, sending them all up onto the internet for us to consume. I once dreamt about being a dancer, modern art, modern contemporary dancer. So instead I talk about wrestling on the internet. So yeah, go check that out. And today is the 5th, September the 5th. If you're watching this on September the 5th, it's a Wednesday. And you know what Wednesday means? Wednesday means NXT. And Wednesdays also mean that I do my weekly 205 Live NXT recap show over on FightfulSelect.com. Now, one thing that I will be doing for the next few weeks is I'm going to be doubling down or tripling down. I'm going to be adding an extra show to that recap show. I'm going to be talking not only about 205 Live, not only about NXT, but also about the Mae Young Classic, which starts tonight. Well, actually, the broadcast starts tonight. As we all know, it's happened. The tournament has occurred. It's in the can, as they say in the business. But I'm going to start covering it tonight as it progresses, and I'm going to be doing it spoiler free. And I'm going to be doing it starting tonight on FightfulSelect.com. And what is FightfulSelect.com, you may ask? Oh, I'm so glad that you brought this question up so that I can answer it without, just coming across as a shill. FightfulSelect.com is the premium service of Fightful.com. Fightful.com, fantastic combat news website where you can get all of your breaking news, exclusive news on pro wrestling, MMA, some boxing in there as well. People punch each other in the face. They come to full physical contact to try and harm each other. It's covered on Fightful.com. And FightfulSelect.com is the subscription service where you get tons of extra content. On top of the ones that you get for free, you get a whole bunch of really cool, super hot, exclusive content just for members. You get a whole bunch of members-only podcasts, such as my 205 Live NXT Mae Young Classic recap shows. Reviews? Recap shows. Let's call them recap shows. You get the Weekender podcast. The Weekender podcast, which is done by Sean Rossap, managing editor of Fightful.com. He wraps up the week in news, wrestling news. He also talks about non-WWE programming. He recaps those. Impact, Lucha Underground, Ring of Honor, New Japan, Being the Elite, 12 Pounds of Gold. He goes over all that stuff. It's a great members-only podcast. You get our retro reviews that I do with Sean. We have a couple out right now. We did TNA Unbreakable. We did SummerSlam 1992 just a few weeks ago. This has all been released. We're getting ready to record ECW One Night Stand 2006. That was an interesting show. That was a lot of fun to watch. Can't wait to talk about it with Sean, and then to let all our FightfulSelect.com members enjoy the party. There's a lot of stuff. There's early access stuff. There's dark match commentary that Sean provides. Look, head on over to FightfulSelect.com. Take a look at it. You know how much it costs you for all that great content? Just $5 a month. It starts at $5 and you get a whole bunch of great stuff. So go check it out. Subscribe. Join. And then once you do join, then you can come join me during my NXT 205 Live Mae Young Classic recaps, because I do it live. I stream it live for Fightful Select members. So they can actually, if you're a member, you can actually drop in the chat, and start dropping knowledge, dropping comments. As long as you don't drop dead, it'll be a good time. So go ahead and check that out. I'm back on the gin tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Ooh. It's water. I don't think there's people out there that do their podcasts, wrestling or not, and they purposefully start drinking a lot of alcohol. And I'm not judging. They do whatever they want to do, however they feel it. If they feel that it adds a new layer to their podcast, all the more power to them. I'm not going to tell them how to make their money, but I don't think I'm an interesting drunk. I really don't. Like I'm the, I feel like when I get really, really drunk, I start talking about, really dull subjects like Transformers canon. What do we consider to be canon in the Transformers universe or not? Or my favorite fonts. I'd probably go on a tirade about how I consider Baskerville to be the most credible of all the font faces. You don't want me drunk. If I were to drink alcohol as I record these reviews, recaps, man, it'd just get duller and duller. So no, but more the power, power to anyone who does crack open a few beers as they're going along and things get silly and goofy. Things would probably just get a lot more awkward if I started drinking a lot. Hey, you know what I started doing a couple of weeks ago? I on Twitter, twitter.com/Mr. Warren Hayes. I've started on the days that there's shows like WWE shows, putting out a tweet saying, what, guys, hit me with your boldest predictions for WWE Raw or WWE SmackDown or WWE SummerSlam, whatever. Hit me with your boldest predictions for the show tonight. And they seem to be somewhat popular. People respond. They give some pretty good predictions. But if they're just good, I say, no, go ahead, be bolder. I want bold. I want wild. As I say on the Twitter, no limp noodle predictions. I only want bold predictions. And I think I'm going to feature a couple that came out for SmackDown, and we can take a look and see how bold these predictions are and how they compare. Let me just pull them up here. There we go. This one comes from Roger Renman at Renman Roger over at Twitter. Roger says his bold prediction for SmackDown tonight was Becky Lynch and Charlotte get booked for Hell in a Cell in a dramatic pause hair versus hair match. That's pretty bold. And if think for a second, either or, Charlotte or Becky, bald. Their hair is such an important component of their character. Maybe that'd be the way to get people to boo Becky Lynch. I don't know, man. Maybe. Another prediction here. Becky will align with Ellsworth, says CM Rebel at Red Rebel of Death. Becky will align with Ellsworth. Later in the night, the two of them will be spotted chucking a box of kittens off the roof of the arena. Fans will still cheer. That's a bold prediction. And you know what? I think that would be the case. People would still cheer for Becky. Joshua Anderson at SSJ4 Vegeta 1986 says, not going to happen, but Sanity wins the triple threat because Aiden English backstabs Rusev and joins Sanity. Well, that didn't quite happen, but I thought it was plausible, but still very bold. That was a bold one. Next we have Jeremy, my pal Jeremy, EPL and NFL. Jeremy, my boy, says, Lana asks for her release from her contract with Rusev. Rusev destroys Aiden in return. The lights go red and Eva Marie enters and shepherds Rusev to the back. Not only is this bold, it's bold, but it's mostly a nightmare scenario. Good job, Jeremy. What else do we have? Kayfabe Booking at Kayfabe Book says, I want a full-on breakup. We're still talking about Lana and Rusev Day here. I want a full-on breakup. It's kind of played out. I want Lana, who has shown she's not worthless in the ring, to break off and go by her actual name, CJ, and drop the Russian nonsense. You know, if they actually made a thing out of it, I'd be okay. This was, which why I thought was pretty bold. You know, I think all that's missing for Lana is really to, like Kayfabe Booking just said, just get rid of the Lana stuff. Just go to CJ. She's dropped the accent anyway. She doesn't even use the accent anymore, except to say Rusev, where she rolls her R's. Otherwise, yeah, just go ahead. Call yourself CJ and let's go forward with this. It's bold. That was a bold prediction. And I think this is the last one. Rick Flareon, or Do It With Flareon. How you doing? Good internet friend. Says, Wendy leaves Styles for Joe. Paige enters into a love affair with Ellsworth. Monroe versus Birdie announced for Evolution. Yeah, that'd actually be fun. The New Day gyrates into outer space. Becky shaves her head into a mohawk and is renamed Sheamus. I like that. Very, very bold predictions. None of them happened. But that's the fun of doing bold predictions. Good job, Timeline. Thank you, everyone who contributes and has fun with that. I have a lot of fun with it. Let's move on to SmackDown Live. September 4th edition, 2018. The show begins with Brie Bella and Daniel Bryan coming to the ring to meet up with our good friend and favorite Raw commentator, Renee Young. Well, I don't know if it's up to debate if she's our favorite, but I think she's an upgrade from Coach. Renee reminds us what happened last week when Miz and Maurice beat the tar out of Brie and Daniel, but oddly enough, no one reminded us about Brie's suicide dives last night on Raw. Miz and Maurice, then we this was kind of weird, but I get it as the evening progressed, but it was kind of strange. Miz and Maurice cut an empty stadium promo, an empty arena promo. It was pre-taped. And they were like, they call Miz and Maurice cowards. They call Daniel Bryan and Brie out to come and like, oh well, they're not here because we're early. But I get it. Like I get. As the evening progresses, it starts making more sense. But it was kind of strange in and about itself. Anyway, so they're like, well, you're not here. Who's, you're afraid of us, so on and so forth. Go back to the ring. Daniel Bryan and Brie Bella call Renee and call Miz and Maurice cowards, and then call them out to the ring for a fight. But Renee says, well, guys, they've left the building. So everyone's like, boo, and they're cowards, right? But instead of having the Miz and Maurice come out because they left the building, we're instead treated to Andrade Cien Almas and Zelina Vega, who come out. Zelina runs them down and passes the microphone over to Almas, who cuts a promo. Now, I don't know who you are in 2018 who goes to a WWE show and what's the wrestlers, the superstars who are cutting promos, especially the foreign ones. I don't know who you are out there, but that's it's bad form, and you're a loser. You're just a loser. The Attitude Days are over. Wadding is done. Just like your CM Punk chant, it's all done now. Time to move on instead of clinging to the past for some reason. But I don't know why sometimes WWE insists on having their non-English speakers cut heavy promos when their English isn't up to par. It's the same thing when they have Asuka try to cut promos. It doesn't quite work. Kairi Sane over on NXT. And Almas does not have good English. He just doesn't. And it's weird having him cut promos or management asking him to cut promos when he has a mouthpiece who's supposed to do that for him. He doesn't need to do it. In NXT, when he was paired up with Zelina Vega, he never talked. Or when he did, it was a short sentence. It was a blurb. Nothing like what he did tonight or even last week. And see what it leads to? It leads to him being wadded. And who is that on? It's not on Almas. It's not Almas's fault. This is creative's fault. This is management's fault. Zelina is there to speak for him. She's his business partner. That's what she's for. Let her talk. There's no reason to insist, in this case, for Almas to do his promos. Yes. I think that he could benefit from becoming more agile with the language, kind of like Shinsuke. Shinsuke has much better English now than when he started, and he's doing great. His promos are fantastic. They play off his strengths. So that's what they have to do with Almas here. There's no reason throwing him to the wolves like that. Let Zelina do the talking. Anyway, so this leads to Daniel Bryan versus Andrade Cien Almas Dos, which was cool. There's some good grappling to start here. Daniel Bryan works Almas' arm. There was some great moves. That Elmo. That elbow, that Almas hit on Bryan. Hot damn. That was a harsh one. Almas starts working on Bryan's arm as well. So they're both working on limb at this point, trying to get the upper hand. There's some severe chops from Almas on Bryan throughout the match. And I kind of feel, I don't know if this is a thing, but ever since Greatest Royal Rumble, when Roderick Strong hit the ring and just turned Daniel Bryan's chest to hamburger, you remember that? I feel like, on one hand, I feel like everyone is trying to outdo Strong, trying to just turn his chest again into red pulpy messes. And at the same time, I cringe. I'm like, oh no, his chest, it hasn't completely healed, I'm sure. Yeah. And again, look, it busted him open. He got super rashy, not rashy. He got super red, very raw. It's almost as if Bryan asks him to do that. It's kind of funny. Almas hits a drop kick to Bryan, jumping off the ring apron, going for the flying knee. That was really cool. Daniel Bryan hits a dive onto Almas to the outside, pushing him into the barricade. Is it petty to make a Brie reference here? Yes, it's petty. He hits a low drop kick to Almas' face while he's in the Tree of Woe. That was looked pretty harsh. Oh man, and Almas, when he does his top rope moonsault, lands on his feet to a standing moonsault. Holy smokes, guys. I will never get tired of that. I will never, or I don't know how many times I'm going to have to see it before I get tired, because I don't feel like I'll ever get tired. You know what? I think I should actually do a countdown. I'm going to mark it here on the board, okay? We're going to start today. We're going to start on September 5th, okay? The number of times that I've seen Andrade Cien Almas, starting today, the number of times I've seen him do the moonsault into a standing moonsault. Number of times I see that before I get bored, okay? Before I get tired of seeing it. There's one time, all right? And I'm gonna mark it here, but I'm gonna incorporate it into the Warren board, so that we can keep a tally on this, because I think this is important. All right. So first, I've seen it once, and I'm still not bored. Let's see how long it takes before I get fed up. Spoiler alert, probably never. Anyway, the match. Bryan at some point, he just unloads with some kicks. That was. You can tell that Bryan is having a great time facing Almas. I think it's the same with Almas as well, but you can tell Daniel Bryan is having a good time, able to play off his style. And they really have a good connection in the ring. I mean, I can't wait for the 20-minute classic between these two guys. This is where I'm at right now. I saw them again tonight, and I just wanted more. Bryan hits the running knee to the face of Almas for the win. And this is only the second time that Andrade Cien Almas has lost clean since coming up to Maine. This is only the second time. And the other time, who pinned him clean? WWE Champion AJ Styles. Again, I keep saying it week after week. I'm going to say it again. Folks, management likes this guy. And this is one NXT call-up that we will not be able to complain about. Say, oh, they mishandled him. He's not being mishandled. Not when he can take Daniel Bryan to these heights, that he can stretch it out with him, that he can have very, very highly competitive matches with AJ Styles. They like this kid. So do I. And after the match, Brie Bella goes after Zelina, and she does that insane, the Brie, man, looks like it looks like she wiped her face off with that knee. That was severe. Miz and Maryse are not there though. They come to us via satellite, telling us that they are in a restaurant, an Italian restaurant in Detroit, and that they've reserved the entire restaurant out. And oh, sorry, they won't be there tonight because it's date night for Miz and Mrs. All right. This was a fun match, by the way, folks, guys, ladies, gentlemen. This was a good, fun match, and like I said, I want more Daniel Bryan and Andrade Cien Almas. I think that there's a magical match of the year in there somewhere. Pardon me. Just with these flashes that we've been having, there's something there. Next, we see Brie and Bryan going out to find a restaurant. They're leaving. They have their luggage, and they're going out to find an Italian restaurant. They feel like having Italian. At this point, I'm like, yes, a food fight. Then we go to the cutaway interview between Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch. They introduce Charlotte first, and she gets booed. They introduce Becky, and she gets cheers. And as Charlotte starts answering the question, as she starts answering the first question, there's chants for Becky in the audience, and they're pretty loud. Obviously, I mean, okay, I'm not going to run down the content of the interview itself because, to be perfectly honest, it's kind of standard fare. You know, the betrayal angle. Why did you do this? You were my best friend. You could have asked me for a championship title. I would have given it to you. Oh, don't patronize me, Charlotte. You know, I've had to carry you as your best friend. You know, with your insecurities. Yes, you're good enough to carry the Flair name. Don't. Yes. This was my time. It was kind of standard fare. What I found interesting, though, is that you still can't fully hate Becky. It's still not a thing where Becky Lynch is completely despicable. You're like, yeah, you know what? It probably did kind of suck certain days to be Charlotte's best friend. And by the way, I understand that this is kayfabe. Just, you know, bear with me storyline-wise. That's what we're talking about. But yeah, you know, there were some days that it was probably quite tough, that you don't want to put up with her. And it's hard not to be pissed off at Charlotte. It really, really isn't. Because I honestly, like, as great as Charlotte is, as fantastic an athlete she is, and how, you know, just how she is and looks and conducts herself as a champion, I think we all relate kinda to Becky Lynch. And at some point, I too would just like throw my hands up and like, nope, screw this friendship shit. It's not taking me anywhere, and I'm getting screwed over. Yeah, I'd be completely on her side with that. So, couldn't quite get the job done. But I also don't think that they're really looking to turn Becky full heel. Like, I don't think it's as blatant as what they're doing with Braun Strowman to absolutely get Roman over. I think at this point they're like, well, you know what? We're just going to let this one run its course. That's how it feels like. Because you'll notice that ever since she did her Why Becky Why promo, she hasn't blamed the audience for anything. She hasn't been talking to the audience, as in trying to get a reaction from them. She's been focused solely on Charlotte, and I think that's smart. That's good. That's good booking in this context, because otherwise, if she kept harping on the audience and saying you people all suck, I don't think anybody would really buy it. And I think it'd just explode in their faces. This is really the best way to go. I think if they are taking a step back and seeing how organically this turns out, which I kind of feel is what they're doing, well, there may still be hope for WWE yet. Naomi versus Peyton Royce. We get this match again. And, like I said last week when they had this match, I kind of called this. Let's be frank. You can go back and watch my review from last week. I kind of called what was going to happen in this match. Peyton would go to the ring. The Iconics each got a win over Naomi, and Naomi couldn't get one over them. So she'd probably need some backup because they were basically doing the Seth Rollins versus Dolphin Drew angle over on Raw, but with the ladies here on SmackDown. And I was kind of expecting them to pull out Asuka this week, for her to come to Naomi's defense. I thought she would interfere in the match. She didn't interfere in the match to keep the Iconics away, but she did keep the Iconics away from beating her up too much at the end of the match. Because at the end, after Naomi sort of sunset flips Peyton Royce into a win, kind of out of nowhere, Billie Kay runs in and both Iconics start beating down on Naomi. Asuka, who we hadn't seen in weeks, pops out, runs to the ring, and saves the day for Naomi. And again, as I said last week, and I'm glad this happened. Last week I said I'm okay with these short Iconics matches, with the Iconics getting wins over Naomi, especially if it leads to something. If it leads to a bigger match, something where the ladies can sink their teeth into. And that's what I said. I said probably a tag team match. I bet you $10 Asuka's going to come out. And that's exactly what happened. So we did get a bit. So it did build to this moment in story. Now, what's the next step? I'm thinking we've got our Hell in a Cell pre-match show, right? Pre-show match. I think that's what we have right here. And this isn't disrespectful. I think this is what it is. And again, another thing that's really cool, something that you have to understand, that we have to appreciate in this situation, is that the creative is booking the women's division, booking women from the women's division into storylines that don't involve the title. It's just it's just a good old good old feud that's been building up, simmering and bubbling more and more as the weeks progress. This has been very, very well executed. I'm glad Naomi's getting more TV time. I'm glad the Iconics are getting wins. And I'm glad Asuka's back on TV. I have no complaints with this at all. This is absolutely fine. And as long as the payoff is a good match that the ladies can sink their teeth into, everybody won in this situation. We get a Jeff Hardy promo. They are setting our expectation up for Jeff to jump off the cage. You do all realize that, right? That Jeff Hardy is going to die. Not going to die, but holy shit. I don't understand. It seems to me just about 2 months ago, we were looking at Jeff Hardy walking to the ring, taking bumps, and it looked so painful and everything looked stiff and hard. His movements seemed difficult and pained. I don't know why they're doing this. Well, apparently this is the Jeff's Hell in a Cell match was a request. And management, sure, Jeff, you got it. It was like, look, I've never had a Hell in a Cell match. I really want to do it. This is like my last shot. The thing is that I'm looking forward to it. I'm not looking forward to the bump that Jeff Hardy's going to take. I'm going to go nuts when that happens. Not nuts like, this is insane. More like, oh my God, just stay alive, Jeff, kind of thing. But otherwise, this match, with the way that he and Randy Orton have been portraying themselves over the past few weeks, it's going to be brutal, man. It's going to be so good. I'm looking forward to this match. R-Truth is backstage looking for Carmella. Oh, no, wait. Before that, Miz and Maryse arrive at the arena to confront Daniel Bryan and Paige and Brie. And Paige is there, and she's like, they're not here. They went to look for you at a restaurant. And Miz is like, gosh darn it, gee willikers, man, snippity snap. It's too bad. I really wanted to confront him. Well, Paige says, well, look, if you're up for a fight, well, I'll set you up for a match tonight. Against who? Against anyone who wants to fight you. All right. Backstage, then we have R-Truth who's looking for Carmella, and he sees Maryse. He mistakes Maryse for Carmella, which was pretty funny. They have a pretty good exchange. I really like R-Truth and what the segments that they're doing with him. So he's his typical confused self at this point. They have so as he's talking to Maryse calls Carmella, I'm not Carmella, I'm no Staten Island trash. And then Miz arrives, and he says, why are you talking to my wife? And R-Truth is like, you're married to Carmella? And Miz says, how long, when was the last time we were in a ring together? 7 years ago. Oh, so you haven't been relevant in 7 years. Now R-Truth looks at Maryse and is like, looks at Maryse, and then he looks back at Maryse and he says, I don't know what Carmella sees in you. Then he leaves. That was a good segment. R-Truth is so good. Samoa Joe is with us. In the microphone in the ring, and he has a microphone. Now, the greatest tragedy that will befall us all once this feud with AJ Styles will be over is that Samoa Joe will no longer say, "Oh, Wendy." That's going to be a shame. It's really going to be too bad. He's playing more mind games with AJ, basically saying, "Oh, we're AJ's not here tonight. He's probably at home, taking care of his kids because they thought that I was going to go over there and do stuff." But the way he flips his promo around, where he's like, Wendy, I kept every promise I told you. I said I'd send you your boy home. Your husband, the father of your children. I only said that what I do and that I'd keep my promise. I have delivered your absentee husband to your home on a coveted Tuesday night. My actions have forced him to care about you, come home and actually look after his family. I've kept my promise. I hope the Styles clan will enjoy this evening. That's so masterful. He's so good. He's so good. He's just an awful, awful, awful human being. But here's the twist, though, that AJ Styles is not in Gainesville. He's in... Where was SmackDown tonight? He's at the arena. He's in Ohio somewhere. AJ's here, and he hits the ring and goes right after Joe. And, man, they brawl. They just lay it on each other. Some really strong strikes. It got harsh. Ends up with AJ swinging a chair at Joe, who dodges. Refs come out to try and split them up, but AJ's like in the zone. The story here is that AJ, he's just out of control. He's full of rage, and he just wants to tear Samoa Joe apart limb from limb. Joe even, not Joe, but AJ even springboard dives onto Joe and a ref. That's when Paige comes out to try and split them up. This was fine. To be honest, I was kind of expecting Joe to be at the Styles household. I think there was something to be done with that. This is fine as well. Especially in an evening where there's a lot of talk, but not a lot of confrontation. But I'll get to that at the end. This was okay. This was fine. But I can't help but feel that despite the momentum that they had going into this leg of their feud after SummerSlam, which finished really, really, really strong, can't help but feel like it's lacking a little sizzle. It doesn't have the gumption, to make us really go flip out. Now, R-Truth actually sees Carmella backstage, and he asks her if she's seen Carmella. She says, "I'm Carmella." Well, he says, "Look, I was wondering if you'd like to accompany me to ringside, because Miz is going to bring the other Carmella to the ring." Other Carmella. And she called you Staten Island trash, with Carmella doesn't quite appreciate. And so then he walks away, and Ty Dillinger was with him the entire time, and he's like, "Look, dude, do you know what you're even doing? This is confusing." And R-Truth says, "Don't worry, young man," or I can't remember the term he used, but he says, "Don't worry, I'm teaching you." And Ty's like, "What would you have to teach me, R-Truth?" And R-Truth says, "I'm teaching you how to get into the main event of SmackDown Live." So, how great a payoff was this? I don't know if all the weeks of R-Truth just acting confused and looking for Carmella and trying to get his title match, I don't know if it was building to this moment specifically. But do we understand that this whole while R-Truth has just been really super lucid? Maybe a little kooky, but just very, very clear in his intent, his intentions, in putting on a facade of being weird and confused, but yet no one really taking him seriously. But in the meantime, bobbing and weaving his way to the SmackDown Live main event. If this is the payoff, wow. If not, let's keep at it, because look, whoever is taking care of the R-Truth segments, whoever's producing them, writing them, this has been some top grade special stuff, and the A game was out tonight. This was primo stuff. Primo. You know, everyone has been thinking Truth is nuts. Dillinger thinks he's been talking nonsense. But are we at a point where we realize that he's just, like I said, like he's been lucid and inching his way over to the SmackDown Live main event? Is that it? Is this what we were building to? This is great. It was so good. Fantastic. We get the next match in the Don't Call It a Tournament tag team tournament. The Usos versus Sanity versus Rusev Day. I thought that this was a really standard, nondescript match until we got to the end of the match. Otherwise, everything was very, very bog standard. With Jimmy Uso playing the babyface in peril for most of the bigger part of the match, for at least 70% of the match, with Killian Dane messing him up the whole way. Dane hits a big drop kick on Jay, who falls to the outside, and then you have Eric Young, who hits a flying elbow right off the apron to the outside, and just lands on his throat, and that was severe. Rusev gets a hot tag and starts kicking everyone. Jay Uso hits a big splash on Young, but goes for the cover, but Aiden English comes in to break up the pin. Jay again dives to the outside to take Alexander and Dane out. Alexander Wolf and Killian Dane. Then Rusev goes for a dive. One of the Usos, don't remember which one, punches him in the face. But Aiden English comes in to sort of take him out with a DDT right on the apron. Young, in the meantime, rolls Rusev up for the pin, puts his feet on the rope, but Aiden English kicks his feet off of the ropes, which then creates just enough distraction with Eric Young for Rusev to hit a Machka kick, and it's done. Rusev Day going up against the bar. And the story of this match here was that it's quite simply, quite clearly, this would not have ended up as a victory had it not been for Aiden English, who spent most of the match getting Rusev out of trouble. And there was no slip-ups. It was not like coincidental. No, Aiden was on top of his game. He was looking out for Rusev. He did his part. Now, in my opinion, Rusev Day is fine. Absolutely fine. But, of course, since this is wrestling, and we all know that wrestling friendships are all doomed for betrayal, what do we do with Aiden English going forward? Let's say, what would happen next week? Does Aiden English betray Rusev? Saying, look at how far we got. It's all because of me. What if Rusev messes up next week? Costs them the match. And like literally Rusev messing up. Not just Aiden English. Personally, I don't want them to split up Rusev Day. It's a good act. I think Rusev and Aiden English work really, really well together. And adding in Lana in the mix, I'd keep them around, keep them together for a while still. Let them go fight the New Day. Not the Bar just yet. I don't think Rusev Day needs the titles. You can keep them on. Have the New Day have their first defense on Rusev Day and keep the Bar for later. That's how I'd book it. Finally, get to the main event. We have Miz and Maurice coming to the ring to call out Daniel Bryan and Brie. There's been a lot of that tonight, but they're not in the building. They're out at the Italian restaurant. So R-Truth and Carmella come out, and they both perform What's Up, and the audience likes it. The audience, they like them some R-Truth, don't they? We come back from commercial, and the match is already underway, and Truth is in control. He hits a really nice spine buster on Miz at some point. Miz goes from some yes kicks, and the crowd chants no. They're into this match, by the way. The audience is buying into it, and to be honest, as the match progressed, so did I, because in my mind it was like, R-Truth's not winning this. But as the match progressed and as it went on, it made me a believer. The close, the near falls, so on and so forth. I was buying into it, and I was like, oh man, R-Truth might actually do this. Miz, look, Truth worked this match fantastically. It's crazy that this guy's in his mid-40s. It's crazy with the way he moves, the way he performs in the ring. It's bananas. So he was working really great. And Miz's greatest talent, as far as being an in-ring performer goes, his greatest talent is making his opposition look like $1,000,000. He is so good at making the other guys look so good. And I think that's one of the reasons he works so well as a heel as opposed to a babyface. And don't get me wrong, it's not a backhanded compliment, because I'm not calling him a bad worker. He's a good worker. But he excels in making his opponents look great. And R-Truth looked great. R-Truth being in the main event tonight of SmackDown Live is the culmination of weeks of refreshingly quirky and new character development that we don't get to see much from WWE. Just zany enough, but backed up with some interesting in-ring work. It felt good to see R-Truth in there. Not only on he's a veteran, he deserves this kind of stuff. No, it's just, we haven't seen him in such a long time do anything. It just felt good and fresh to add. He's a dark horse. He's like he's an extra bit of spice that you add into the sauce that you're not expecting. You're like, wow, this is great. I didn't see this coming. It just felt good. Anyway, Miz is beating up on R-Truth. And then Bryan's music hits. Daniel Bryan's music hits. So Miz is trying to get the skull-crushing finale on Truth. So he's distracted by the music, and he looks up over at the ramp because that's how wrestling works. And R-Truth just rolls him up for the win, completely out of nowhere. Clean as a whistle. R-Truth got a win on the main event of SmackDown Live. The match is out of the way. Daniel Bryan and Brie Bella hit the ring. Miz gets into a yes lock. Brie sets up Maurice for the Brie knee. But Zelina Vega and Andrade Cien Almas appear again. And they come to the ring to break everything up. Start beating up on Miz and Maurice. Not Miz and Maurice, sorry. Start beating up on Brian and Bella, who reversed the situation and put them both in yes locks as Miz and Maurice book it up to the top of the ring. We have Andrade and Zelina who are tapping out incessantly in the yes locks. But Daniel Bryan and Brie Bella sending a clear-cut message to their opposition at the end of this match. I like this dynamic with these three involved here. I was actually kind of thinking that Carmella and R-Truth were going to get involved in this, and then I started thinking, Almas and R-Truth? That'd be interesting. That's what I thought was going to happen. I thought R-Truth and Carmella were going to come in to save. Daniel Bryan and Brie Bella as they were getting beat up by Almas and Vega, but it didn't quite happen that way. That was SmackDown Live. I wrote it here. I called it Snooze Down tonight. This is odd. I think I liked Raw more than SmackDown this week. I thought SmackDown was a bit of a downer. Let me say that again. Not a downer. It was a transitional show, leading us into the Go Home show, which is are we already at Go Home show? Yeah, Hell in a Cell is in 2 weeks. The next week is the Go Home show. And I kind of feel like nothing really happened on SmackDown tonight. And that's weird because the last few weeks, everything felt important. Everything felt like it was adding an element, that there was stuff being thrown into the mix. Aside from Naomi and Peyton Royce, the Iconics, now it's the Iconics and Naomi and Asuka, I don't feel like we were really building. I think it was just like there was a lot of back and forth. You know, the Brie Bella, Daniel Bryan stuff with the Miz and Maurice. It was all based on things that happened before. And it was the faces getting the upper hand this week because the heels got the upper hand last week, and it was fine, but there was a lot of just screens and back and forth. Andrade Cien Almas and Daniel Bryan was a good match, don't get me wrong. I enjoyed that. Even Samoa Joe's segment with AJ Styles, it didn't add anything. You know, it wasn't like it didn't captivate the imagination. It didn't make us want more. I mean, when they did collide and did start brawling, it was harsh, and I was like, oh God, I can't wait for these guys to fight. The triple threat tag team match was okay. Like I said, I thought it was very bog standard until we got to the ending. And while Miz and Maurice with R-Truth was fun, it's just sort of there. And like I said, you know, in the overall angle, I think this benefited R-Truth more than anyone else. It felt middling tonight, and I thought that over the past few weeks, SmackDown has been so good. It's a bit of a transitional show into maybe the big blow-offs or the pre-blow-offs, the big hypes next week with the Go Home show. We'll see. Not a bad edition of SmackDown, but I felt that there was a bit of a halt in momentum. Oh, and Randy Orton and Jeff Hardy had their taped promos. They were just a little too heavy-handed in both cases. Didn't care for it much. Well, that was my review. Guys, did you like it? Well, go ahead and like it on the video here. Why don't you subscribe? Well, since you're here on the channel, why don't you talk to your friends about it? tinyurl.com/Mr. Warren Hayes. it's silly, it's stupid. Every YouTuber asks you to do it, but you know what? It means a lot when you do leave a comment, when you do leave a thumbs up. Super appreciated. Follow me also on Twitter at Mr. Warren Hayes. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in today.